I never would have imagined that my life would take such a drastic turn. 4 years, I thought I had the perfect marriage with Paul. We were the envy of our friends and family, always smiling, affectionate, and understanding towards each other. We met in college and had been inseparable ever since. We got married young, full of illusions and dreams to achieve together. The first years of marriage were wonderful. We bought our first house, traveled the world, and built a life together that seemed straight out of a fairy tale. Paul was caring, romantic, and made me feel like the luckiest woman on the planet. I adored him and couldn't imagine my life without him. But as is often the case, routine and responsibilities began to weigh on our relationship. Romantic gestures became rarer, conversations more superficial. Despite everything, we remained a solid couple in everyone's eyes. We strived to maintain appearances, convinced that it was just a rough patch that we would overcome soon. That's when Lucas entered my life, my new co-worker. At first, I didn't pay much attention to him. He was just another colleague with whom I had to collaborate on certain projects. But gradually, his presence began to brighten my days at the office. Lucas was funny, intelligent, and had a way of looking at life that I found fascinating. Our lunchtime conversations became the most anticipated moments of my workday. He made me laugh like I hadn't in a long time, listened to me with genuine interest, and made me feel valued not just as a professional but also as a woman. I tried to ignore the butterflies I felt in my stomach every time I saw him. I kept telling myself that it was just a friendship, that I was confusing things. But it was useless. Every day that passed, I felt more and more attracted to Lucas and more distant from Paul. One evening, while I was silently having dinner with Paul, as had become our habit, I found myself thinking about Lucas, his smile, the way his eyes sparkled when he talked about something he was passionate about. That's when I realized I was in trouble. I was falling in love with another man. The guilt was eating me up inside. How could I feel this way? Paul was my husband, the man I had promised to spend the rest of my life with. We had built so much together, we had dreams. I couldn't throw it all away for a fleeting crush. I decided to distance myself from Lucas, to limit myself to a strictly professional relationship. But it was easier said than done. Every time I saw him at the office, my heart raced. Our eyes met, and I felt a connection I couldn't explain with words. One afternoon, while we were working late on an important project, the inevitable happened. We were alone in the office, tired but satisfied with finishing on time. Lucas looked at me intently and said, "I can't pretend anymore that I don't feel anything for you." Without giving me time to react, he approached and kissed me. It was a passionate kiss, full of restrained desire. For a moment, I let myself go, responding with the same intensity. But then the image of Paul appeared in my mind, and I abruptly pulled away. I ran out of the office, confused and scared by what had just happened. That night, I couldn't sleep. The kiss with Lucas replayed over and over in my mind. The guilt was suffocating, but at the same time, I couldn't deny what I had felt. It was as if I had awakened from a long lethargy, as if I felt alive again after a long time. The days were torture. I avoided Lucas at the office, but every time we crossed paths, I felt unbearable tension. At home, Paul noticed that something was wrong, but I attributed it to work stress. I felt like a liar, a traitor. I decided I needed time to think, to clarify my feelings. I asked Paul to give me some space, inventing an existential crisis I needed to resolve alone. He, always understanding, agreed without asking too many questions. I spent a few days at my parents' country house, alone with my thoughts. Those days of solitude allowed me to reflect on my life, my marriage with Paul, and what I felt for Lucas. I realized that Paul and I had long become life companions rather than a passionate couple. We loved each other, yes, but was that enough? On the other hand, what I felt for Lucas was intense, exciting. He made me feel young again, full of illusions. But was it true love or just the excitement of the forbidden, the novelty? After much reflection, I made a decision. I couldn't continue deceiving Paul or myself. I had to be honest, even if it meant jeopardizing everything we had built together. I returned home determined to talk to Paul. When I arrived, I found him sitting on the couch, looking worried. Before I could say anything, he spoke. "We need to talk," he said. My heart raced. Did he know something? Had he discovered the kiss with Lucas? In a trembling voice, I asked him what was going on. Paul took a deep breath and began to speak. He told me that during my absence, he had reflected on our relationship, that he had realized that we had drifted apart for a long time, that we were no longer the happy and in-love couple we once were. Listening to him, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I wouldn't have to bring up the subject myself. Sadness because his words confirmed what I already knew: our marriage was in crisis. Paul continued to speak. He told me that he loved me, that he would always love me, but that he thought we both deserved to be happy, that maybe we needed time apart to rediscover ourselves as individuals and decide if we wanted to continue together or take different paths. His words took my breath away. It was as if he had read my thoughts. Tears in my eyes, I told him everything. I told him about my confused feelings, how I had fallen in love with Lucas without wanting to, about the kiss we had shared. I expected Paul to get angry, to yell at me, to accuse me of betrayal. But to my surprise, he remained calm. He looked at me with sadness and said, "I already knew." It turned out that Paul had noticed my change in attitude for a long time. He had seen how my eyes sparkled when I talked about Lucas, how I prepared more to go to work. He had even overheard a phone conversation where I talked to my best friend about my confused feelings. Instead of confronting me, Paul had decided to give me space. He hoped I would confide in him, that we could overcome this crisis together. But seeing that I didn't, he understood that our marriage was more damaged than he thought. That night, Paul and I talked for hours. We cried, laughed, remembered the good times, and analyzed where we had gone wrong. It was a painful but necessary conversation that allowed us to see each other honestly for the first time in a long time. We decided to give each other time apart. Paul temporarily moved in with his brother while I stayed at home. We agreed not to see other people during this period to focus on ourselves and what we really wanted. The first days without Paul were strange. I felt lost in this house we had shared for so many years. But little by little, I began to rediscover myself as an individual. I took up old hobbies I had abandoned, went out more with my friends, and dedicated time to myself. At work, I maintained a cordial but distant relationship with Lucas. I explained the situation to him, and he respected my decision not to get involved with anyone during my separation from Paul. Months passed, and gradually I gained clarity. I realized that what I felt for Lucas, though intense, was more a fleeting crush than true love. It was the excitement of the novelty, of feeling desired and valued again. Paul and I saw each other from time to talk about our personal progress and the future of our relationship. Each meeting was less tense, more honest. We rediscovered aspects of each other we had forgotten. We laughed at past anecdotes and shared our fears and hopes. During one of these conversations, Paul surprised me with an unexpected confession. He told me that he too had felt attracted to someone else in the past, a coworker with whom he had shared an important project. At first, I felt hurt and betrayed. How could he have hidden something like that from me? But then I understood that Paul had done the same as me, fighting against his feelings out of love for our marriage. This revelation, far from separating us further, united us in an unexpected way. We realized that we had both made mistakes, that we had both struggled to keep our love alive despite temptations and difficulties. After 6 months of separation, Paul and I decided to give ourselves another chance, but this time with our eyes wide open. We knew it wouldn't be easy, that we would have to work hard to rebuild trust and rekindle passion. We started from scratch, as if we were a new couple. We went on dates, courted each other, and rediscovered the pleasure of intimacy. But most importantly, we learned to really communicate, to express our feelings and needs without fearing each other's judgment. It wasn't an easy path. There were moments of doubt, fear, and insecurity. Sometimes I wondered if it wouldn't have been easier to simply separate and start over with other people. But every time I looked at Paul, I remembered why I had fallen in love with him in the first place. Over time, our relationship strengthened. We were no longer the perfect couple that everyone envied. We were something better, a real couple with its ups and downs, but who had chosen to be together despite the difficulties. Lucas continued to be part of my professional life, but now as a simple co-worker. The attraction I had felt for him faded, replaced by a friendly affection. I realized that what had attracted me to him was more what he represented, emotion, novelty, than him as a person. Paul and I renewed our vows in an intimate ceremony surrounded only by our dearest ones. This time our promises carried a different weight. They weren't the idealized words of a young couple in love, but the mature commitments of two people who had weathered a storm together and come out stronger. Today, several years after this crisis, I can say that our marriage is stronger than ever. It's not perfect because nothing is, but it's real and honest. We have learned to value each other, to take nothing for granted, and to work on our relationship every day. Sometimes I think about how close I came to throwing away years of love and companionship for a fleeting crush. I feel grateful to have had the opportunity to reflect, grow as a person, and rediscover the love I felt for Paul. This experience taught me that true love is not just passion and butterflies in the stomach. It's companionship, it's trust, it's choosing to be with that person every day, even when things get tough. Paul and I are not the perfect couple we once thought we were. We are something better, a real couple who faced their demons, made mistakes, but learned to forgive and move forward. And that, to me, is worth more than any fairy tale. Now, when I see young couples idealizing love, I smile inwardly. I know that true love is forged in difficulties, in moments of doubt, in the ability to forgive and start over. Paul and I have learned not to compare ourselves to other couples, not to seek perfection but authenticity. We have learned to value the small moments, a cup of coffee shared in silence in the morning, an unexpected caress, a knowing look during a family gathering. Our story is not a fairy tale, it's a real love story with its ups and downs, moments of doubt, and moments of absolute certainty, and it's precisely for that reason that it's a beautiful story. If I could give advice to other couples going through a similar crisis, I would tell them not to be afraid to face their problems honestly, to give themselves the chance to rediscover themselves as individuals and as a couple, to take nothing for granted, and to work on their relationship every day. True love is not something that just happens, it's something that is built day by day with patience, commitment, and a lot of hard work. But when you achieve it, when you overcome crises and come out stronger, there's nothing more beautiful in the world. Today, when I look at Paul, I no longer see the charming prince of my youthful dreams. I see a real man with his qualities and flaws, who has stood by my side in good times and bad. I see the companion I chose and who chose me, not once but every day of our life together. And when I think of Lucas, I no longer feel that dizzying emotion I once confused with love. I feel gratitude because, unknowingly, he was the catalyst we needed to face the problems in our marriage and rebuild it on more solid foundations. Life constantly tests us, presents us with temptations, and confronts us with our own fears and insecurities. But it is precisely these trials that allow us to grow, that show us what we are truly made of. Our story didn't end with a happily ever after. Our story continues to be written every day, with every challenge we face together, with every laugh shared, with every argument we resolve with love and patience. We have learned to take nothing for granted. Every night before bed, we share something we are grateful for in each other. It can be as simple as thank you for taking out the trash or something deeper like thank you for listening to me today when I needed it. This little ritual helps us keep mutual appreciation alive and not forget the little things that make our relationship special. We have also learned to give each other space when needed. We no longer see time spent apart as a threat but as an opportunity to grow individually and have something new to bring to our relationship. Paul has his outings with friends, and I have my yoga classes. We respect our personal spaces, which makes us appreciate the time we spend together even more. We know we are not invincible and that our relationship will always require effort, but we are willing to make that effort every day. We went through a tough ordeal and came out stronger, more united. We have learned never to underestimate the power of honesty, communication, and forgiveness. Paul and I decided to take a vacation together, a trip we had always wanted to take but had continually postponed. We chose to visit the beautiful beaches of Biarritz, a place we both dreamed of seeing. During this trip, we took the time to reconnect, talk about our hopes and dreams for the future, and simply enjoy each other's company without the distractions of daily life. This trip marked a new beginning for us. We took the time to savor each moment, to rediscover the beauty of our relationship. We explored the beaches, tasted the delicious local cuisine, and watched sunsets together, hand in hand. Every moment spent in Biarritz was a reminder of why we chose each other in the first place. Upon returning from this trip, we decided to bring more spontaneity and new experiences into our daily lives. We started trying new activities together, like ballroom dancing and cooking classes. We hiked in nature, attended cultural events, and even started planning small weekend getaways to escape the routine. Our relationship continued to flourish as we committed to never taking each other for granted. We learned to value every moment spent together and never lose sight of what brought us together. Paul and I also integrated moments of personal reflection and development into our lives. We attended personal development seminars, read books on psychology and relationships, and even practiced meditation together to strengthen our emotional and spiritual connection. With time, we built an even stronger foundation for our marriage. We learned that crises and challenges can either break a relationship or strengthen it, depending on how they are approached. Our experience proved that true love requires work, patience, and a constant willingness to grow together. Today, when I look back, I am grateful for every moment, every challenge, and every lesson. It allowed us to forge an authentic and lasting relationship based on understanding, respect, and deep love. Paul and I are stronger than ever, ready to face whatever life throws at us together. And with every sunset, whether in Biarritz or at home, I am reminded of how lucky I am to have him by my side, not because he is perfect, but because we chose to love, support, and grow together every day.